After the events of the first movie, Shazam and his family of superheroes are loving life, but also contending with natural events such as aging, education, and looming adulthood. When three godlike beings show up, wanting power they believe stolen, it's up to Shazam to not only save his family, but the entire planet. The first Shazam movie was a charming and fun superhero movie. It didn't reinvent the wheel, it didn't offer much new to the genre, but it nailed the fundamentals and made for a good time. This sequel doesn't do any of that. Shazam! Fury of the Gods is a formulaic, busy movie with little charm and even less purpose in a franchise on the brink of reboot. Zachary Levi and Asher Angel return as the titular Shazam and Billy Batson, but the latter barely gets any screen time this time around. Much of the movie focuses on Zachary's childlike superhero, doubling down on his goofiness and ineptitude. Zachary makes for a likable superhero once again, but without the real-world grounding of his teenage counterpart, he often feels like a child on the loose, poking and prodding for attention, attempting jokes here and there, and regularly falling flat on his face, literally and figuratively. This leads to the movie's biggest problem, its humour. Fury of the Gods tries to be funny, regularly. It tries to make references and in-jokes with some slapstick and gross-out humour too. Sadly, none of it works. This is primarily because the movie's tone is all over the place, with so many themes and messages being established and very little time spent on any of them. The jokes often feel like the forced-in levity needed, but they end up being one more thing on top of a pile of other things the movie struggles to handle. It's tiresome. Shazam! Fury of the Gods simply tries to say and do too much. It tries to address issues around aging and moving out, about the foster system, about rights to powers, about romance, about bullying, and so much more. But each time it establishes one of these key points, often in an admittedly good way, it then pushes the issue to the side in favour of a CGI fight or an explosion, never to address the issue again in any significant way, until the end of the movie when it quickly wraps everything up as though there weren't an issue to begin with. It's a movie that tries to say a lot but actually says nothing. Speaking of the CGI fights and explosions, there are plenty of them in this movie. One of the bigger set piece moments is a battle between Shazam and a wooden dragon. Much of the movie revolves around this dilemma, a dragon in the real world, threatening destruction. It makes for some fun action sequences as well as a surprisingly emotional finale, perhaps the highlight of the entire movie. But the CGI is often less than believable, especially when it is mixed with the live action performances. Lucy Liu, who spends a large sum of the movie on the back of the dragon, rarely seems to be riding the dragon, looking instead as though her image has been photoshopped on top of it. The villains, a trio of godlike beings consisting of Lucy Liu, Dame Helen Mirren, and Rachel Ziegler, do the best they can with what they're given. Helen brings a certain gravitas to the role, clearly demanding respect from the others, while Lucy does a good job at acting menacing and unhinged. It's Rachel though who gets the best material, as she gets to interact far more with the more familiar characters, showcasing the degree of depth and emotion not seen in her fictional sisters. This trio is ultimately a bit boring as far as villains go. Their origins are murky, with little explanation given to explain where they came from, their motivations are simplistic, and they never really say or do much outside of fighting the heroes. It's disappointing considering the caliber of the actors playing them. Shazam! Fury of the Gods is a disappointing follow-up to what was a charming, good, if generic, superhero movie. It does have some good action scenes, as well as some fun moments and decent acting, but the movie lacks a focus or a deeper purpose. Its comedy often falls flat, its CGI is a touch too excessive, and its villains are not all that interesting.